Yes, I regret the day I came up with them, I really do.
Why?
Why? Because it's ruined my life.
And here is the real live Candyman, the king of jelly beans, Mr. Jelly Belly. Mr. Jelly Belly. Mr. Jelly Belly. And we'll be right back to visit with him.
In life, you only need to be a genius for 15 seconds. This is America. If you come up with a good idea, you can run with that idea. I was very happy as Mr. Jelly Belly. People would call me up for interviews, radio, TV, all kinds of things. And you know, it was a good part to play.
Wait till laughter dies.
Irving Jelly Belly.
Is that a family name, Jelly Belly?
No.
You know, you really, that T-shirt, can you come in on this, guys? Because that logo is right at the right spot. You really do have one to chase, don't you?
That's an A cup, I think.
What's your real name?
David Klein.
So people don't know who I am, basically, in the industry. I'm the best kept secret in the world. I was born in Syracuse, New York, and we came out here when I was 3 years old. I've been a California guy 58 years. I'm 61 right now. People say I still sound like I'm an Easterner, that I never lost the Eastern accent. But it only had 3 years chance to develop, but a lot of people say I sound like I'm from the East Coast.
Perhaps my first memory of the Jelly Belly is seeing my dad on TV. I mean, I know that probably wasn't the first impression, but the first one I can remember. I also remember tons and tons of boxes coming straight from the factory. We had a room called the Bean Room, and I just remember the white boxes with the Jelly Belly logo that Kathy Fosselman had done. My mom insists that I learned my colors from the first 5 flavors of Jelly Belly, which I believe were coconut, green apple, very cherry, root beer, and I can't remember what the other one was. My dad's had a lot of ideas over the years, and they've all been brilliant, but there's just something about these guys, nothing like these guys.
I always like to do things in new ways, always. I like to be as creative as possible in anything that I do. I never like traveling freeways. I always like going side streets because you'd see something different every time. You go on a freeway, you limit your choices. Every time I would go a different way. So everybody in the family used to say, "Dad, it takes us 4 hours to get home."
He went to UCLA, graduated law school, top in his class, brilliant, high in academics, did what he did to make his parents happy. But something snapped in his head and he said, "No, I'm not going to do this."
At the young age of 18, I was in business with my uncle making a product called Big Dave's Popcorn, named after me. Is that still 3060? Yeah, look at that. 3060 Glendale Boulevard. I would come here every day after going to UCLA, load up, took the back seat out of my car so I could put in more bags, and I took the bags to liquor stores and bars, and I was not old enough really to be allowed inside the bar because you got to be 21 to get in.
Dave worked his way through law school, UCLA, selling popcorn on campus. Somebody who did that to start with and then decided not to take the bar exam because that really wasn't what he wanted to do, I think is, I think that's pretty cool.
The first time I started to talk is with David. I was always very quiet, very genteel, very much a lady, and then he changed me. Out of self-preservation, I changed.
You know, a lot of people think it would be fun to be a candy inventor, but you know, it's grueling, thankless work. I mean, you're working in a windowless candy factory for 18, 20 hours a day, no air conditioning. You're making painfully agonizing decisions like, cinnamon or nutmeg, sugar or corn syrup. I wouldn't want to have to live with that kind of pressure.
Do you know who invented the Jelly Belly?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Ronald Reagan.
So you think Ronald Reagan invented the Jelly Belly?
Sure.
Ronald Reagan's love of jelly beans goes back to around 1967 when he was governor of California and he was trying to kick a pipe smoking habit.
It is essential that we negotiate from a position of strength.
He started using these little confections, jelly beans, as a way to keep his hands busy, a little something to be tasting every now and then, and it grew into a great habit. When the president was on Air Force One, there were special packages that were created for the Jelly Bellies. There was always a jar of Jelly Bellies on Air Force One. Throughout the president's career, he continued to order 60 cases of Jelly Bellies a month. They were distributed all throughout many different offices in Washington, D.C. He was a very happy man, and the various colors and the way they're displayed, it just sort of goes with his persona. And he used to say, there's a lot you can tell about a fella by the way he eats jelly beans.
The Jelly Bellies changed the world. I think in their own small way, they changed the world in the sense that they changed the world's perception of Ronald Reagan. Jelly Bellies showed the softer side of the president. That made him more palatable to the American public and possibly the world public.
Okay, sure, he created a monstrous budget deficit and he supplied missiles to Iran and he gave aid to Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, but hey, you like Jelly Bellies, so he can't be all bad, right?
I mean, I wonder where the Jelly Bellies helped bring down the Berlin Wall.
I love paper plates because you can fling them. Little pieces of paper would get lost if I put it on a little piece of paper. A paper plate is so big you're not going to throw it away. And I keep my paper plates. And I look them over from time to time. I have a paper plate collection. Nobody in my family had ever been in the candy business, but I knew I would be in the candy business someday. It was almost like I was destined to be in the candy business.
He knew more about candy than anyone else in the United States. He believed in reading about everything. His philosophy is, if you're going to represent something, you have to know everything about your subject.
All right, I'm going to go check these orders. How are we doing on the alien pea? That's so that we're coming out with that. Uniquely flavored. This is Earth Lemonade. Lemonade, and you open it up. Notice it's in a honest-to-goodness urine container, specimen container, that is still sterile. You're not allowed to double dip on this. Rat dip.
He was always trying to find a need and to fill.
He always had to be the best. Always striving to do something different. Always looking for a new way to do things.
Dave came up with something that revolutionized the whole industry. And a lot of people tried to copy, and a lot of people tried to follow.
Right in that building is where I got my start. 9533 East Garvey.
Garvey belonged to my in-laws. My mother-in-law ran this little store, and it was doing okay, nothing, stupendous. It was mostly a seasonal business. Cal was teaching school when we first got married, and I started running the store. So one day, Dave walks in the store. He wanted to go out in the world of Los Angeles and sell some of that merchandise, the nuts and the raisins. He knew a lot of places where he could go, actually. He looked at Cal, and they got along really well right away. I was amazed at the honesty that was between the two of them.
That guy's name is Ronnie. I remember him from 27 years ago. I bet money on it. The memories of this place. Hello.
Oh, you're the Jelly Belly
Jelly
man.
Belly man, yes.
I remember
Hey,
that.
there you go.
I used to work for that man.
Yes, I remember.
How do you do, sir?
How do you do,
You
sir?
know that Paul's Bike Shop?
Paul's
told me
Bike.
to throw the nuts over the wall.
Ah. I'm seeing nuts. When I'm looking around here, I don't see bikes. I see nuts. I see blood, sweat, and tears that I put into the business. Endless hours. Put over 100,000 miles on one vehicle because of the business.
David's trunk was too small, so they needed a larger car, so they bought a van, and they just filled it up, and the business was going really good, you know. It was turning into a wholesale rather than retail, you know. This went on for a while, and then Dave got these jelly bean ideas. He always had these ideas in his head. I thought he was amazing.
Cellophane wrap for freshness supplies quick energy. The world's biggest candy value, only a nickel. Sold everywhere. Boy, it's good.
Ordinary candies, things have been around forever. You had candy corn, you had a Snickers bar, you had a Hershey's bar, you know, a few little new items, like York peppermint patties. You know, those things were good for their time.
When you want candy, you want the very best and plenty of it. Yes, sir, you know, kids, everybody likes the Three Musketeers.
The industry was boring. It lacked flavor, it lacked color, it lacked imagination, it lacked creativity. And Dave was there to provide all those things.
He had an idea to upgrade a common candy jelly beans and make it with premium flavors, with a premium look, a gloss to it, a certain shape, a quality that hadn't been done before in the industry.
The product originated in Temple City on a Thursday night at 8:15 while I was watching Happy Days. I was talking on the phone to a buddy, and we were talking about different candy products, what kind of candy products would be good.
And he said, you know what? I'm going to come out with this line of jelly bellies, jelly beans with different flavors and different colors. And I thought, that stinks. And I thought, who's going to buy that?
The manufacturer of Jelly Bellies was a company called Herman Goelitz's Candy Company, an extremely well-known candy company in Northern California, a generational candy company that in those days was primarily known as a manufacturer of the finest candy corn anywhere in the world.
I made a phone call to the owner of the company, to Herm. It was at 6:30 at night. He answered the phone directly because probably everybody had gone home at that point. Herm Rowland is like the 4th generation candyman. Candy is in his blood. He knows how to operate every single thing in the factory. I mean, he is a candy man.
You'll see all the different flavors of Jelly Bellies sitting out here waiting to get...
Herman Rowland is the head bean counter at Jelly Belly.
That's my whole life. You know, that's what I do.
Well, Herman was, president of the company, a very personable individual. I've known him for many years, and him and David got along fine.
I said, Herm, this is Dave Klein. I would like you to make a special formula product that I can market.
He had told them that he wanted something that tasted better than just an ordinary starchy jelly beans. Sugar and starch is what they were.
Jelly beans to me were these kind of large, just sugar-flavored, waxy things that were sort of like used as packing material in Easter baskets. They're the kind of things you'd like find in old people's houses, like bowls full of hard candy and jelly beans. They just, didn't have that much flavor to them. I wasn't that excited about them. But Jelly Bellies were definitely different. They were smaller, and they had very distinct flavors. They were quite good. And I have to say, as a vegetarian, it's very important to me that they don't have gelatin. I mean, most jelly beans have gelatin, which is a pretty disgusting animal byproduct, and Jelly Bellies do not. I'm told that they do contain some beeswax, but I always say, screw the bees.
We thought it was strange that somebody would want to break that product apart and sell it as straight flavors with different names and so forth. I don't know if I would use the word kooky, but we thought it a different type of individual altogether, very excited, and seemed to be onto something. So we thought, well, we'll see how far this goes.
It was at the point where they were looking for something to differentiate themselves from the other 500 different candy companies that were really struggling, making products, competing with each other on the basis of price.
The company was not strong financially. It just was a manufacturer of about 60, 70 years at that time, making products mostly for the supermarkets in the mass market and not in the specialty market. As things grew and the relationship grew, Herman was just a little cautious because he's not used to dealing with someone as forward as David was. But overall, he viewed David as I did, very honest, straightforward, hardworking fellow that was having a lot of fun with the jelly beans and trying to build his business.
I came up with the idea of Jelly Bellies. I needed a place for it to be sold, where the publicity could be generated from, that was reasonably bright, cheerful. What could be better than an ice cream parlor? And right up here is Fosselman's Ice Cream Parlor. You can see their nice logo right there as I drive by. And you should be able to see the Jelly Bellies as you look right there. Hi, Fosselman's. How you guys doing? Going back down memory lane. Going back. Not having much money, like about 800 bucks to my name, I approached the owners of the ice cream parlor, and I said, I would like a little corner of your place, and let's put in a little stand in here, and let's sell this product called Jelly Bellies. The first day, a young man came in, and I gave him a sample of a pink Jelly Belly, and I said, how does this taste? He said, what flavor is it? I said, it's strawberry. He said, you know, it doesn't taste like strawberry. And I said to him, well, what does it taste like? He said, that tastes like cotton candy and it smells like cotton candy. Right after he left, I changed the sign, and from that point on, that flavor was cotton candy. And I don't know where that young man is now, but I remember him driving off on his bicycle, and he never realized at the time that he had changed history. I had faith in it from the very beginning. I will tell you that. I had faith in the product from the moment of conception.
He picked the top marketing colors you could have for the consumer, red and yellow. McDonald's has red and yellow, Burger King red and yellow. These are consumer colors. And to do it on there with a name like Jelly Belly, very distinctive from anything else in the market. The colors were there, the product was there, it had a whimsical look to it.
Nobody would buy the product. I couldn't give it away. I literally could not give the product away. And the factory kept on calling me, how's it going? Oh, it's going great. I mean, they obviously could see by the orders that it wasn't.
The price was outrageous.
It's quite interesting that the candy business was somewhat late in getting price increases. We were locked into these low-end prices. We were afraid to go up anything on our cost. We were afraid to make even a better quality candy because we'd call on the distributors, as I did in all the western states, and if you went up anything, they would give you a hard time. They didn't want to buy it.
And when I took the product around to stores, they laughed at me. They literally laughed at me.
Yeah, people don't realize that, you know, these are gourmet jelly beans. You have to pay for quality. And everything's relative. Like in the late 1970s, you know, Jelly Bellies were $2 a pound, and gas was $1 a gallon. So, I mean, what would you rather have in your mouth, a half a pound of Jelly Bellies or a gallon of gas? I think it's pretty obvious.
I was optimistic. I knew that all I needed was one big break for it to catch on. I needed that one big break, and that one big break came with the publicity. I figured, okay, what do I have to lose? I'll start right at the top. I called the Associated Press. I wanted it to be on the wire service. The whole thing was rigged. The whole thing was definitely rigged. I set it up that we were doing a lot of business. I had phony customers come in during the interview. The whole thing was a setup. Am I proud of that? I don't know. Who knows? I did what it took to get the product off the ground. That hit the wire service a few days later, and actually from that point, the customers started calling me.
It took off.
We made so much money that at night my husband would put Jelly Belly money in a box and take it home in a big box. That's how much money we made on Jelly Bellies alone.
Having Jelly Bellies was like gold, and that's why I worked very hard to make sure I got a reasonably fair amount every month. If you had it, you sold it, and if you sold it and knew what you were doing, you made money.
I can't think of any other product in my lifetime that's created the phenomena that this jelly bean has. I mean, certainly in our industry, there's nothing that compares.
The late 70s in America was a time of excess when people wanted to cut loose and have fun. They wanted more color in their lives and they wanted more choice. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for a concept like Jelly Belly.
Everybody was kind of in a state where they wanted to have something happy.
With alcoholic-based flavors like pina colada and Mai Tai, this was a candy that went way beyond kids' fare. Jelly Belly's never-before-seen variety of color and taste made it the first choice candy for the disco generation.
You send in $5, we would ship 2 pounds anywhere in the United States, postage included. We needed somebody to take care of the mail order division. That somebody was Grandma, and she did it real good. My wife's mom. She was a fantastic mail order person. She became me. She signed my name to it, told stories to the people about how the product was invented, all kinds of stuff. And as me, she did it as me. She needed to keep the beans on hand to fill the mail orders. She kept it in what was called the bean room. There was a dog there, Poopy. Poopy the dog, nice dog. He got into the bean room and he started to eat the beans over a period of time. And no, he was sneaky enough to not leave any trails. Nobody knew he was eating the beans. He died soon after that. He had diabetes. I think the beans killed him.
In 1976, my brother tasted Jelly Bellies, thought this is a phenomenal candy, located Dave Klein. We initially established a push cart in Century City, California, close to the movie industry, close to Beverly Hills. This was a push cart that started to develop a lot of attention just because of the types of people that came to Century City. This is the mayor of Los Angeles. It's rather amazing. An endorsement like this, you couldn't buy this, but the mayor came and he loved the product, and everybody else loves the product.
Because how many different varieties do you make? I can't hardly count them.
Right now we're at 25 varieties.
Wow. What did you start out with? How many did you have when you started out?
8. 8
Just
at the very beginning.
It seemed like every week Dave would come up with some more flavors. It's like, oh yeah, we could put this together and this would be great.
That's what sold it. If we had stuck with the original 8 flavors, it never would have gone anywhere. We needed to keep on introducing new flavors.
We would sit down with Marinus Van Dam, the candy maker, and say, here's another request for something from David Klein.
Herm actually did not like for me to call the candy maker directly.
He was over here at Herman Gullett's and primarily doing mass market product, candy corn and normal stuff. He got caught up in the excitement too. I mean, he was a creator of the first rank as far as making quality products go from his days in Rotterdam, Holland. This gave him a chance to put some of those creative juices to order, and he really took heart at that.
When my dad was Mr. Jelly Belly, he would take me to the Jelly Belly factory. I remember walking through the offices with Rich, and he was kind of priming me, going, okay, now, when you meet Marinus Van Dam, I want you to reach out your hand and shake his hand and say, hello, Mr. Van Dam. So Marinus Van Dam comes out, And I remember he was wearing, you know, the white outfit, the Jelly Belly hat, and he had a little necklace with a gold-plated Jelly Belly on it. He bent over and to reach out to shake my hand, and I just said, "Hi, Marinus." And Rich was so mad. I remember afterwards, he said to my dad, you know, Dave, you got to teach your kids some manners.
Hollywood Park. Look at this.
No.
What is this?
That's something I made.
Look at this. Look, we saved it all these years.
Thank you.
Look at this.
I did that in
Wow.
Lamphier's class.
Wait, is that Mrs.
Lamphere.
Is that the one that said you drew out of the lines?
The one that said I was mentally disturbed.
Mentally disturbed?
Oh, here we go.
What'd you find?
This is like the kind of like psychotic coloring
Oh,
I would do.
I could see what he
You
was
see it
talking
right there?
about.
You see, I had a kindergarten teacher.
Yes.
I colored outside the lines really crazy like.
And she called me up one day.
And said that, what did she say? Do you
said-
remember?
She said, Mr. Klein, yes. Mr. Klein, you're going to have to come down here right away. What's the matter? Oh, look at this. Yes.
Yeah, that's why.
I can
That's
see
why.
it.
Can you see
I
that?
can see this. Yes. Bert, if I had seen this here, I would have thought you were mentally. Look at this.
Look at this.
I've had a very unusual family. My dad was unusual. My mom was unusual. I'm unusual. We come from an unusual family.
My next guest revolutionized the jelly bean by creating new and exciting flavors previously unknown to mankind. What did Mr. Jelly Belly do this year to top himself? He changed his name and took on the gumdrop. So would you please welcome Mr. Gumdrop?
All right. I was on Mike Douglas' show a couple times. I was on AM Los Angeles. I worked my heart out flying around the country, appearing on television shows,
12 ounces of milk.
interviews with magazine article people, with newspaper people, just making myself totally available to anything that would involve helping the product being marketed.
I remember him making this enormous chocolate-covered cherry jelly bean to give to Dinah Shore, which I think was pretty funny.
The product took off, we got the publicity. As Fosselman's was getting more and more into it and the publicity was happening, everybody was calling there saying, I want to buy Jelly Bellies, because the publicity was directed towards the Jelly Belly in Alhambra. After a while, Bob answered the phone, Jelly Belly, instead of Fosselman's. I said to Bob, I appreciate all you've done for me here. How'd you like to become a distributor and sell the product to other stores? He said, Dave, I know nothing about being a distributor. I said, come here. Took the phone, I made an order. His first account, Stottlemeyer's. He went over, delivered it. He made $30 on the sale, came back, that was it. So he became a distributor of the product. One day, I get a phone call. Remember exactly where I was at the time. Bob is on the other line. He said, Dave, he said, how many partners do you have in the business? I said, well, you know Cal is my partner in Jelly Belly. He said, well, you have a third. You have me. You have a new partner. I said, Bob, what are you talking about? What are you possibly talking about? He said, Dave, I own the California trademark of Jelly Belly. Our attorney had advised us, apply for the federal trademark. California trademark has no significance. So, hey, we listened to the attorney. Bob applied for the trademark. He signed on there that he was had the sole right to have the name. He actually perjured himself on the form because he didn't have the right to have the name. I said, Bob, what do you want? He said, no, here's what I want, Dave. Just listen to me. I want to be guaranteed $64,000 income a year. I said, Bob, okay, let's just say I don't go along with your plan. What would you do? He said, Dave, I would call the guys in Oakland and tell them they're dealing with me from now on. I am the guy. I am the trademark owner. I am the guy. We went along with it. It was at the time we didn't want to upset the cart, so we went along with it. Cal wrote the contract, so after the sum of $64,000 had been reached, Bob was over with. Cal went to bring him the last check. On the back of the check, he put payment in full. This is it. Handed Bob the check saying, Bob, this is your last payment. And Bob said, What are you talking about? This is supposed to be every year. It's supposed to be $64,000 every year. Cal said, why don't you go read the contract? So he ran, he got the contract. It was in his top drawer. And he said, my goodness, there's nothing in here that says per year. It says until the sum of $64,000 is reached. He said, I'm going to have to go see an attorney. I would have loved to have said to the guy, well, why didn't you see one before you signed it?
David had a very unique personality as far as a customer goes, because he's a customer, he became a business associate, and then he became very much of a friend.
I would have to say, though, maybe the biggest mistake possibly that Dave made would have been going into partnership with Cal Lieberman.
When I first started Jelly Bellies, I owned 100% of it. I didn't have any partner in that. I did have a partner in the wholesale nut business, Cal. I received a call from my mother-in-law one day, kind of in a panic, and she said, David, Ben, her husband, just lost the lease on his store. He had a little general store across from the hospital. And she said, I really don't know what we're going to do. Our son is in Stanford right now, and if he found out about it, he would drop out of medical school. So I really need your help. You need to find something immediately for Ben. So I kept on thinking, well, let's build him something. Let's buy him something. No, and I couldn't come up with anything. Let's start him a new business. She said, no, he has to have immediate income the day he goes in there. So my partner in the nut business had a store in San Marino, Garvey Nut House number 2. I called him up. I said, Cal, I'd like to buy that store for my father-in-law.
I didn't want to do that. I said, I told him no.
I called him. We met early Saturday morning. His wife came down, and I said, what are you doing here? She said, well, that's my interest too. Why wouldn't I be here?
He says, well, what do you want? He said, you want half of the Jelly Belly business? And I went like that. And I said, yes, absolutely.
So anyway, we traded. We traded half interest in the Jelly Belly for a store in San Marino.
My dad basically sold magic beans for a cow. The cow being that store, and Cal got half of the magic beans.
It is my little Jelly Belly man.
Oh, have a cotton candy and one lemonade. Pink lemonade.
Maybe I should have offered him a third of the business. He probably would have taken it.
Was it your generous nature that offered that much?
I needed something for Grandpa to do.
Yeah, I just kind of thought Cal was just kind of benign.
Cal was harmless. Cal never. I mean, that's the way Cal was.
But why? But he irritated people.
So what do you do?
At least that's what I've heard.
I don't think he irritated them on purpose. I mean, without Cal, there would have been no Jelly Belly either.
Why is that?
Where would I have stored the product?
Well,
at our house?
You did.
At our house?
You did store some in our house.
Yeah, but I mean like thousands of cases.
So Cal gave you the space to store
the space to store it. When I called up Herman Golitz, who was I when I called him up?
You were from Garvey Nut.
I was Dave from Garvey Nut. If I had been Dave without any affiliation, I would have had to fill out a credit form. I didn't have money to buy product.
And Cal was a customer of Garvey Nut.
Cal was a customer of Golitz.
Cal was a customer of Golitz.
Right.
It's basically because you worked with Cal.
I latched on to him.
Yeah, that was the one good thing you did.
I latched on to him.
That gave you an in.
I love that word, latched on.
You kind of latched on to me.
Yeah, I love that word.
Cal gave you an in.
He did.
Unknowingly, though. Unknowingly. Basically, you
Unknowingly.
saw an opportunity with Cal and you used it.
I was a user. I was a user. I was a user. I used him.
That was a little bit of a surprise because that came further down the line. And we didn't know how that was structured. And also, since we started to do more and more business with them, we were wondering how that was going to affect that relationship down the road, since we didn't know who that party was and what type of agreement they had between them.
The problem is basically from the moment Cal got involved in the Jelly Belly, for some reason, I don't know what it is, my relationship with the manufacturer was never the same. I had an article about me in People magazine where I posed with my chest hairs showing, throwing the Jelly Bellies up in the air. And from information that I have found out, it's my belief when Herm saw that picture of me, he thought that I had blown the whole product because it's not a respectful way of having your picture taken exposed like that. I believe at that time, without telling me, Herm had all the equipment that made Jelly Bellies, a lot of it set aside to make candy corn, because he needed something to fall back on if I had actually blown the whole golden goose.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Carlos is going to get us some hats.
This is
And
great.
the party's going to be what, this weekend?
Actually,
What is your name?
Isabel.
Oh, what a beautiful name. Whose birthday party is
This is the
it?
birthday girl right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And you're the one with the birthday. Very good.
What makes them?
Thank you, thank you. Oh, yes. Has anybody here ever seen the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to know what the name of those little people are. What are they called?
Oompa Loompas.
Oompa Loompas,
Yes.
Ready? Wait, you gotta stand this way. Now, do you want to see the Oompa? Do you want to see them?
Yeah.
Do you really? Are you sure?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you want to see them? How about you? How about you, little one? Do you want to see them? Who are we looking for? Who's in there?
The Oompas.
The Oompa.
Willy Wonka, nothing on Dave Klein. I mean, he is the true blue Willy Wonka.
We're sleeping. Leave us alone.
Oh,
They only come out at night.
My mom loved Disneyland, and we used to go to Disneyland a lot. And when we were little kids, I think this is during the height of the beans. My dad went to the guy with the Mickey Mouse balloons, and instead of just buying one, he bought them all. There's at least 100 balloons, and my dad whipped out like, $100 in cash and took all the balloons. And my dad then gave me a balloon, and then we went around the park just giving away the balloons to children. He enjoys seeing people happy, strangely enough.
We don't care what anybody else thinks. Okay, my left hand. No wedding band, because David is my soulmate. I don't need a wedding band to prove that I love him or he loves me. We love each other, and that's all that matters.
This is those are sour jelly beans. They're real good. They're called Spanks. Because they spank your mouth.
They don't look like jelly beans. They look like...
Well, they're good though. This is a pineapple. That's pineapple there. This is a new jelly bean. These are called No Belly.
No belly.
You like that? Do you like that?
No belly.
No belly. They're sugar free. No
Mm.
belly, sugar free. They're real good. They're sour. Sour.
Yeah, those
no
are really
belly.
good.
What year were we talking about there? If you had to put a year on the years we were connected, 70.
Well, probably between 76,
6, okay.
75 or 6 to 79.
The sad thing is, we didn't know how good we had it back in those days.
Oh, I know.
You know that? You never do. You never know how good you have it. You see any ice cream trucks yet?
No.
No, I don't either.
I don't hear any. Usually you hear them first.
Yeah. Go straight a little bit. We'll find an ice cream truck.
Yeah.
All we need is one.
My dad rented an ice cream truck, stocked with ice cream of all kinds, and he drove around the neighborhood where kids usually go out to the ice cream truck, and he was giving away ice cream to all the kids.
I did that for my birthday. I rented an ice cream truck, and we went to the boys' home. They said, you can't just waltz in here unannounced. I said, I've got ice cream in the truck that's melting. They said, we don't really care.
Is that what they said?
They said, you have to have an appointment months. You could be some kook that wants to, give out poison ice cream to everybody.
Well, you are a
I
kook.
said, do I look like a kook?
Yes, you do, but that has nothing to do with poison ice cream.
So I said, this has been my lifelong dream to hand out ice cream free on my birthday.
One of the other ice cream truck drivers who was normally on that route saw what was going on, and he flagged my dad down, and they almost got into blows. I wish I could have seen that. That was pretty funny.
When Jelly Belly became so well known, the demand was so great, people found out about it so quick. I mean, this was pre-internet. People just knew about this product. It was in the news every day. It was in every other magazine every day.
When that backlog started growing almost weekly, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks into months, and we got to one point it was almost a year. If you can imagine people ordering things and not going to get them for a year, because that's where it was at.
I believe in those days, if you were somebody just calling off the street, it was almost a year to get product.
I had vice presidents of merchandising for department stores calling me, pleading to buy some product. Can you move us to the head of the line? Can you do this? Can you do that?
It reached a point where the product became so big, and they couldn't produce at that time any more product. They had a stalemate there where their production could just not produce any more out of that little factory.
They had to expand, and they had just put in new equipment just that year.
The company was looking to make a change, or there's certainly change the relationship with David Klein at that time.
I think Herm needed control of the trademark Jelly Belly in order to go to the bank and borrow enough money to build a huge factory.
We made all the money investment, and nobody knows who we are. And if this thing goes one way, we're left holding the bag.
Herm Rowland, who is the chairman of the board, called me on the phone and said to me, David, we're coming to town on Friday. And I said, fine, I'll pick you up at the airport. He said, no, you don't understand. We're coming to town.
He told David he was coming down there with the intent to buy the Jelly Belly trademark and all the rights to go with that, and that he wasn't going to leave town until he did.
We met at a hotel meeting room. It was one of those rooms where you rent by the hour. They rented an actual meeting room that had a big desk in it. Everybody was around, sitting around the table. And Herm Rowland first said to me, the opening question he said to me is, he said, do you understand why we're here today? And I said, yes, I do.
After a few hours, it didn't go that well for David. I could see he was a little bit uncomfortable. It's like parting with a child. So we each huddled in our own little way and came back for more discussion on that. And one of the key things I talk with in our group, when we go in there, we'll mention to David that not only is Herman Golitz purchasing the rights to this and providing a lucrative amount of money in the way of income, but we also have, from 2 different facilities, a couple hundred employees that's dependent on us to provide a livelihood for them.
Kind of made me feel guilty about all these people back there are dependent upon the bean for their livelihood, all of the workers there and the salespeople.
Well, Herman, when we came down there, and I think his conversation with David and his presence there was, while it was friendly, it was also, I guess we could say, a little bit forceful.
I could see the writing on the wall. He was the most determined person I've ever seen in my life. He acted like his life was dependent on going back with that signed contract.
He came down there on a mission to accomplish something, and he did say he was not going to leave town until he did accomplish it one way or the other, which was either to acquire that or put Plan B in effect if he was not successful.
So this is where we came to have the contract notarized, right here, 1980. We came here, it was a Friday morning, and as we were driving down Rosemead is when I said to Herm, if I wasn't coming here to notarize this right now, what would you have done? He said, you really want to know? I said, yeah, please tell me. So I was in the back seat, he was in the front, he looked around. He said, Dave, we would have flown back to Oakland, and on Monday, we would have cut you off completely. There would be no more Jelly Bellies for you. We know you would have sued us, but you would have run out of money by the time it got to court. And he held up a poster board that had the new name of this. He said, this would have been our new Jelly Bean. Same formula. All my hard work would have been down the drain.
When we went down there, we had a card to play, and we played it. David Klein had his to play, and he played it. I think that on our Golitz side, our plan B was, I wouldn't say it was a bluff, but I wouldn't say that it was something that if I was on the other side, I'd have been too concerned about. I think that the real power of it all was who owned the rights at that time. That was where the strength was. That's where the decision should have came from, as far as David's concerned. He was in the position of power to have directed the outcome of the meeting. If he'd have held a little bit firmer, I think he might have come out a little bit better. I don't think that he had the stomach for a long, drawn-out battle at that time.
I often wondered if I was in his position, would I have agreed to what he agreed to?
I don't know if David blinked because of any insecurities. I don't know if he blinked because he had a soft spot in him for the employees of Golitz.
I would have told him, don't do it. Don't make the deal. Don't be stupid.
If we would have had the door shut on us and come out with our plan B, by whatever name it was, we would have lost an enormous amount of sales before we could even get any footing to go in there. In the meantime, David could have taken the Jelly Belly to any number of manufacturers and said, here, make this for me and we'll share in the profits or whatever. They would have jumped at that time.
If I'd been by myself, I probably would have walked out. But you got to remember one thing. I had a partner, and the partner was at an age where he knew he didn't have that many years left. I was young at the time, and he was all in favor of it. So regrets, once you sign it, I mean, you know what are you going to do? Spend the rest of your life? You can't do anything about it. It's over. You try to get on with the rest of your life, put that behind, but it's very hard putting behind something that meant that much to you. Sit down. Good boy. Good boy. At least Colonel Sanders, when he sold out, he was still Colonel Sanders. They put his picture on all the buckets and everything. Me, okay, fine, you're out of here. Goodbye.
All David really cared about was the recognition, and he felt that he was treated not with the respect that he deserved.
Especially when I saw her in People magazine in 1981, and I wasn't mentioned at all. I mean, it's almost like history. Dave Klein, we don't know him.
I feel emotions very, very strongly. I felt my husband's pain, and I couldn't help him, and I tried. He had to find what he wanted. And me, I was just happy being with him.
Dave's not a fighter. And Dave's a very, very intelligent man. And I really believe, just like what Rebecca told me, she said, oh, he'll just sit in the jacuzzi and think of more things, come up with more ideas.
After Jelly Belly, my dad kept creating candy ideas. Most were paid for with money he got from the sale of Jelly Belly. First was a line of gourmet gumdrops. Herman Golitz was hired to make these as well, but the factory couldn't keep up production, and the item was dropped. Next was On the Rocks cocktail-flavored candies. They tasted good, but the wrapper kept sticking to the product. Triple Dipple was 3-flavored candy corn. It tasted great, but it didn't take off. Captain Lightweight was the first sugar-free saltwater taffy. It tasted great too, but it gave people the runs and was discontinued. I Can't Believe It's So Sour was the first sour-flavored licorice candy. It set off a sour craze in the 80s. The craze spawned countless copycats, and we were crowded out of the market. There was also the milk chocolate shaped like a turd called Crapé. It might have been ahead of its time. Candy snot and foam-in-the-mouth Mad Dog gum followed. Candy ashes in an urn container, as well as urine to money, coins in a urine sample jar. These and many others sadly came and went. None were successful like Jelly Belly.
Novelty items, by their definition, come and go within 6 months. And one day, everybody in the whole country wakes up and decide collectively, we're not going to buy that product anymore. And when that decision is made, you cannot give the product away.
I really honestly believe in his heart that he thought there would be something else. And it just didn't happen, and I think that's what might have broke his spirit.
He doesn't burden people with his problems or his thoughts. He cuts himself off.
I would drive by the house because I knew where he lived. I'd drive by, I'd leave notes. You know, with my number on there, call me.
You know when you don't hear from David and he doesn't return phone calls, and that he was going through a very black period. And I don't blame him. I don't know how he's handled it. It's awful what happened to him.
It's not a very good drawing, but it's just more of an overall impression of my dad in a place and time where he wasn't very happy. Whether he remembers it or not, I'm sure he does. The pain that he got from people taking advantage of him, you know, the glory taken away from him. I mean, being Mr. Jelly Belly, that being gone, plus everything else, untold other things, you know, that pain had to go somewhere, and, you know, it usually, you know, he took a lot of it out on, you know, my sister and I, but especially me. The more I think about it, about the time when things got really bad, when my dad was really starting to withdraw from a lot of friends and people from his past, as a result, the family unit became closer. I mean, family was always important to my father, but eventually it became all he had. There were hardly ever any outsiders. It was always either the 4 of us or the 6 of us, you know, with other immediate close family, but the family unit just became incredibly tight, and it was just all about us. We were always all together. He used to have this phrase, when I say jump, you say how high. He wanted me to follow in his footsteps and be under his thumb. I was his son, and he wanted me to stick with him through thick and thin. I was an adolescent and kind of discovering my own career and myself and what I wanted to do, and, you know, I was probably a bit of a jerk, you know, as an adolescent, like a lot of adolescents are. And, you know, you kind of want to break away from the family, and I did. You know, I found my career very, very young and was very, very successful at an early age. And I ended up moving out of the house at age 18 and getting married, which my father had a very hard time dealing with. My mother told me that after I moved out of the house and got married, my father slept in my bed for a while, you know. I don't know why. He was also really trying to urge me and Jennifer to live with them after we got married. And this is even after I bought a house, you know, fill in the spot that I kind of vacated and really kind of stepped in. And my sister really kind of stepped up to the plate and kind of filled the shoes that I know my father wanted me to fill, which was, you know, get involved with the family business because it was all about family. My sister thought of Sandy Candy.
This is the product that we make. Comes in 104 different flavors. And basically what it is, it's a sand art that the kids can create in various shapes and sizes. My daughter came up with the idea.
I was coming up with ideas ever since I was little, and I remember my first idea was when I was 3. It was called Choo Choo Chugs, and what they were trains that were interconnected and made out of a product similar to Sweet Tarts. And I remember telling my dad this idea, and he was so cute. He said, "Oh, Roxy, that's a great idea."
She said to me one day, "Dad, what if we made a candy that the kids could make their own artistic creation out of?" And that's how Sandy Candy was born. What I tell people is, what else can you buy a youngster at that kind of price range that they can have so much fun doing, and then they can eat it?
I was working out of the back of my car and out of my house, just on a telephone. We got a phone number from someone. They said, "Here, call this guy Dave Klein. He's the one out there that is doing all the nut business these days." I said, "Okay, great." So I get on the phone. I called Dave Klein. I introduced myself. He asked me who I was. And he says, "No, I can't do business with anybody else." He says, "I'm overwhelmed with what I'm doing." And what was wonderful, my daughter was about 1 year old, and she started crying in the background. And he says, "Who is that crying in the background?" I said, "Well, that's my little daughter." He said, "Don't you feed her?" I said, "Well, yeah, occasionally when I can make some money." And then he said, "Come on down and see me."
People are addicted to things, and I think my father is an addict, not to drugs or alcohol, or the feelings you get from drugs and alcohol, but he's addicted. I think he's addicted to the feelings that he gets from helping people and giving things away to people because it makes him feel good.
He made it very easy for me to take over the business. What it was, he sold it to me for $1. If it wasn't for Dave Klein being so caring and so helpful and so generous, there wouldn't be 100 people that work here today. He's actually provided lives for people from what he's done.
Goodbye. There we go. File that in the circular file. Netflix, I tried that once, but I couldn't quite get the hang of it. There we go. Goodbye. What else we got here? Oh, priority. Priority. I love things that say priority from a foreign country. There we go. Thank you. People, we'll pass on that. And we thank you very, very much. That is today's mail. Total amount that came in, 0. No money.
I remember running into him at a trade show back in the late 80s, and he was dressed as a character. He called himself Captain Lightweight, and he was dressed in a leotard and he had a cape. He said, "I will not place an order for candy, but I will definitely be the first bidder to buy that cape off of you." And he said, "Take it home, put it somewhere, don't ever wash it, because if you wash it, you'll wash away all the powers." And we laughed about that, and I still have that cape to this day. It certainly has helped me grow my company from a one-person standalone to over 135 employees. So I do believe there are properties in that cape, and there's no amount of money I would take for that cape.
You are genuinely a great person, a sweet person, a nice man. But I think it's hurt you. I think it's been, if you had been a little bit more like me, you'd be a lot richer.
What's money?
Well,
What's money?
what's money? Well, you'd have a better spread of food, that's why. No, but it's true. You know what I mean?
Huh? Max, look what I have for you. Come here, Max. Max, look, keys. He loves keys. Max. Ooh, this is your favorite one.
all the money that my dad got from the sale of the Jelly Belly trademark is long since gone. All he has left of it are his memories. And a house.
Bert, here is 30 years of fun and flavor, Jelly Belly. If you can find my name in there, you're a better guy than I am. The official history of the Jelly Belly.
Right here, huh?
Yeah, right there.
There's a hole my dad made in the wall. Pacific Ocean sunset. And over here, as we go to the other side of the room, I never seem to get rid of a toothbrush. You never know when you might need it.
Same week that I found out that I was let go from Famous Amos, the house that I was living in Glendale, they were sold that place, and so I was having to move out of my house in Glendale. I was without a house, without a job, and so Dave and Rebecca, I felt, kind of took me in.
When my father and I got started in the business, we didn't have anything. We didn't have money. We didn't know the business. Dave would take time out to explain things to us.
I could attribute everything I know about the candy business to Dave Klein. He taught me the candy business. Without him, I would have stagnated.
I've seen him give so many people chances and get them started in business.
He would say, do you see that? You see the price point there? Look at the marketing there. Look at the packaging there. And I was so in awe of what he was teaching me.
He always just went that extra mile with everybody.
I think the high that he wants, that he craves the most, is not just giving something away to somebody, but then getting that person's unconditional love and loyalty forever and ever.
He said, you could run any Fortune 500 company. He says, you're unique, you know, you're different. He says, you have different ideas.
He keeps trying again and again and again, like an addict would. It's like that's like his heroin. He's like looking for the unattainable high, I think, which is loyalty for what he's given.
When we finally settled in on the fact that I was going to do balloons as a living, I did a lot of soul searching, and I finally said, you know what, Dave? I'm going to give this thing a year. And so then it was coming up with a name, and we sat down and he said, what about balloon this and balloon that and blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget, he goes, wait, I got it. Balloon Art by Treb. It was the fact that somebody would have that kind of confidence in me, in my abilities to do something that now when I look back was the biggest thing that possibly could have happened to me.
You know, you give a lot. Do you ever think, I've given enough? Should I keep giving?
No, I've never thought that at all. Great pineapple.
I think that part of Dave's mission to be on this planet is to help mold talent, regardless of the industry. And his reward is not monetary, but it's knowing that he's touched people and made a difference in their lives.
I still, to this day, believe in the goodness of mankind. I still believe that people are basically good. I've run into some people that did bad things to me, that I don't know if that makes them bad people or what, or if they were just doing it to protect themselves. I still believe in the goodness of people.
As a kid, I thought my dad still owned Jelly Belly. As time went by, I realized that he didn't own it anymore. And I just kind of stopped talking about it. I know that it made my dad not the person that I would have liked him to be some of the time. So I didn't talk about Jelly Belly. Then even when I got older, I didn't talk about it. To tell you the truth, as time went by, I was afraid people wouldn't believe me. As time went by and my dad was sort of erased from the history. My dad owned the copyright until 1980, a good 4 years after it was already successful. And even with that fact, I began to doubt whether my dad invented Jelly Belly or not, partially because I began to fade it away in my mind because of the pain you know, because I kind of wanted Jelly Belly to go away. I wanted this painful thing to go away, you know, from my dad. He'll ask, how did it hurt you? You know, I mean, sure, I mean, the royalties allowed us to have whatever, you know, we wanted growing up, a decent upbringing. But I just saw how much bad it brought him. It just upset him. He was never happy, and I just kind of wanted it to go away. And, you know, after I got a little older, I realized, you know, my dad created, he created a global phenomenon that everybody loves. Everybody loves Jelly Bellies, and it's all because of my dad. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud that he did this, and I'm proud to talk about it now.
This is our new jelly bean. They're called Spanx. They will spank your mouth. They were named by George.
Oh, thanks for the Spanx.
Wow! I love it!
You're supposed to chew them fast to get to the middle.
Spank-delicious. I can't stop eating these Spanks. Wow! I never really wondered who invented Jelly Bellies. I just always assumed it was like the Easter Bunny.
Giving it all away. The story of my life.
Well, if I was made of ice cream, I'd be chocolate cherry stripe. I'd be trying every topping to expand my cocoa mind. And I'd search my whole life for that perfect cone.